I've been blessed this week to have spent most of the week surrounded by some, if not all at once, my 5 granddaughters, ranging from age 7 to 1. It was quite an experience, for they invited me into their world, whether it was sitting on my lap having me read for hours on end, literally, or whether it was invited into their play, or sometimes just to watch. There were moments where I thought I had entered into a parallel universe, for their world was so different than mine. They saw things that I never saw. They experienced things with a freshness and an innocence that I no longer seem to be able to conjure up. They could be whoever they wanted to be, and were. You had to kind of keep a scorecard as to figure out who they were at what time, but they were quick to remind you if you got it wrong, if you couldn't tell by their costume. After a while, I started to like their world. There were no world crises. There was no war, no horrors, no killings. I remember pulling up to the pump, looking at the price, and thinking, what's the big deal when you can fly? Oh, I've often fantasized about what it would be like to have a church of 4-year-olds. Then my better judgment gets a hold of me. But I've often said the best theologians I've ever known are 4-year-olds because they have not been tainted by all that stuff that we lay upon our beliefs and reality. They have no trouble understanding that water can transform you, give you new life in baptism, wash you clean. Or that a piece of bread and a sip of wine can become flesh and blood. Or the stories that we read are not just archaic memories of a people long gone, but are alive, are the stories of humanity and its struggles with God and faith and life. To see God in the daily, to recognize that in times of trouble you simply call on Jesus because he will be there. Really there. And isn't that what this day is all about? This day of Pentecost. To see the world differently through the eyes of faith. To see the divisiveness and the bitterness and the violence transformed by fire and wind. All that Babel nonsense that divided the world, rendering us unable to comprehend one another, suddenly washed away. Almost a return to paradise. What a different gospel that is than the one that is so often preached from political podiums to Christian pulpits. A world of distinctiveness, where we all rally around our own yard signs or banners, signifying who it is that we follow for all the world to see. What a different world than the one I've lived in this week. One of the interesting pieces of the week, talk about juxtaposition, was that when I was not with my granddaughters, I was with a family mourning the death of their loved one. This was a dear friend, an incredible man of faith, who had been battling an infection that had gotten totally out of hand. And the doctors gave him a choice. Surgery, which he might not survive, and an uncertain future. A quality of life that they weren't sure what it would be. Or they could take him off the medication he was on, and he could die. Fully cognizant, he chose the latter. Because for him, death was a sure thing. Because he knew what came after. It was an easy choice. Oh, to see the world through those eyes. For the last few months, I've been working my way with many of you through the book of Revelation. And one of the startling realizations of that book is that the faithful are called to see the world not as it is, but as it will be. And to live into that new reality. So I guess on this Pentecost, I invite you to go find a 4 or 5-year-old. Hang out for a while. But be careful. You might just hear the rush of a mighty wind and end up on fire. God of tempest, God of whirlwind, as on Pentecost descend, drive us out from sheltered comfort, past the walls your people send. Sweep us into costly service, there with Christ to bear the cross. There with Christ to bear the cross. God of blazing, God of burning, all that blocks your purpose purge. Through your church, Christ's living body, let your flaming spirit surge. Where deceit conceals injustice, kindle us to speak your truth. Kindle us to speak your truth. God of earthquake, God of thunder, shake us loose from lethargy. Break the chains of sin asunder, for earth's healing set us free. Crumble walls that still divide us, make us one with Christ our Lord. Make us one with Christ our Lord. God of passion, God unsleeping, stir in us love's restlessness. Where the people cry you anguish, may we share your heart's distress. Rouse us from content with evil, Claim us for your kingdom's work. Claim us for your kingdom's work.